Gavin, can you see the little halo tonight?
This is very weird, but very exciting. All right, it's 7:03. You guys all ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready? The regular in-person meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, May 10th, 2020 will be called to order at 7:04. At this time, would everyone willing and able join us for the invocation given by Alderman Pone, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we meet at this hour tonight asking for your blessing and help. We pray for your guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the will to find ways to excel in our work tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So nice to hear that in unison. Much better than on Zoom. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Here.
Alderman Payon.
Here.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderman Shandemeyer.
Yep.
Alderman Gay.
Here.
Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
At this time, Alderman Pound, at this time I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda.
Any amendments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Motion to reconsider?
Motion to reconsider.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to reconsider 0521, the Tucker Street Landing Facility. I believe I have to make a motion, and I would do that.
Okay, there's a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, Alderman Pound?
Well, point of inquiry here. This is a motion to, we're taking the motion to reconsider at the beginning. We need to approve the agenda first, don't we? Is this a motion to add that to the agenda?
It's the motion to add the reconsideration to the agenda, yes.
I only wanted to make the motion, Mr. Mayor, to put it on the record at this point. If you choose to conduct a vote right now or discussion, that's fine, but we can leave that to the end. It doesn't matter to me. I don't know what the proper procedure is.
We'll vote on it, right, Regina?
It's two votes, Mr. Mayor. One is to amend the agenda to add it,
Yep.
and then where you want to add it, beginning, the middle, or the end,
Okay.
is up to the body.
Okay, we're going to leave it to the end, I think, right? Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, yeah. So now you have to vote on the motion to add it to the
We
agenda.
have a motion on the floor, a first and a second. All those in favour, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no.
What do we vote on? The agenda?
No, a motion to reconsider 05-21.
just to add it to the agenda.
Okay, it carries. Gina? Thank you. We're all a little rusty here. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
You now need to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay.
Need a motion to do that.
Can I get
So
a motion
moved.
for that?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you have two ceremonial items, a City Council citation, Alex Davies, United States Naval Academy, and City Council citation, Roberta Lanor, Chief of Historic Preservation, retirement.
Okay. So will this be our first live testimony? Does Mr. Davies come up? Or not? Please come forward, Director Simmons. We got a Skype coming in, is that right?
Good evening. Alex,
Director, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm
See you.
Kevin.
Okay, so this is a Skype in. This is the new format for now. New technology for us. Great to have you here. Chief Simmons is going to lead this off, and I will read the citation after
Yeah,
that.
I'm Kevin Simmons, OEM Director. And I just wanted to recognize meteorologist Alex Davies for his time, his support, and most of all, his precise weather forecast that allows public safety to initiate the most appropriate responses to keep our community safe. So everybody here knows that Annapolis is a coastal community prone to weather extremes. These weather extremes, such as hurricanes, tropical storms, flooding, snowstorms, along with the likely impacts of climate change, can be disruptive to normal, everyday life. To that point, Alex Davies could be counted on to attend our various public safety operational briefings over the last few years. There, he would conduct weather briefings for our special events and any environmental emergencies that the city may have. Alex's very accurate weather forecast is critical for public works, OEM, transportation, harbor master, police, and fire. It allows us to be successful in making decisions on community preparedness and helps us initiate the most appropriate response to minimize the effects of weather emergencies. Just a little bit more about Alex. He's a professor of meteorology at the Naval Academy. He's also an oceanographer and a scientist. His impeccable background explains why his forecasts and tidal predictions are so spot on and so accurate. He's always thorough, helpful, answers all our questions, and he's an all-around nice guy. Alex also liaisons with OEM to provide summer internship opportunities for midshipmen at the Office of Emergency Management. I'd like to thank Alex for his contributions and his voluntary service in ensuring that the City of Annapolis has the proper weather data to initiate appropriate responses and keep Annapolitans safe. Thank you.
All right, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now read this citation. Alex, thank you. We truly appreciate you, and all the briefings that you've been at have been amazing. So thank you for getting us ahead of things. On behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we'd like to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of your contributions to keeping our residents safe with your weekly weather reports and updates, as well as your emergency preparedness support during emergency weather, including snowstorms, winter weather, hurricanes, extreme wind and flooding events. Before the pandemic, you regularly participated in our Office of Emergency Management's in-person briefings for special events. Since the pandemic, you have participated in our virtual briefings, which have been crucial for our ability to plan events and our ability to communicate danger to our residents. We look forward to continuing our work with you, and we thank the United States Naval Academy for sharing you with the City of Annapolis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And because we haven't done this before, we'd love to hear from you. So,
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Director Simmons, Deputy Director Mandel, the entire OEM staff, past and present. You guys are an inspiration to work with, and your dedication to the Annapolis community is unparalleled. So thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of it. Thank you.
thank you. We will be mailing this out to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we got through that. Our first Skype in. Thank you. Now we have an in-person person who's going to be missed very much by the city. Please come forward, Roberta. We've got to have a seat. When Roberta came on as Chief of Historic Preservation, she extended an olive branch to the tsunami muralists, and in that atmosphere of cooperation, many murals have come after. Roberta has organised the city's archaeological artefacts and worked to give archaeology an active role. She turned the grave recently discovered by gas workers in Church Circle into front page news, highlighting preparation for just such an event. It was said that the sun didn't rise over the historic district unless Roberta approved it. But Roberta was able to use her authority to bring architects, developers, and contractors to the table and persuade them to do the kind of work that makes the historic district a better place. And that's a fine legacy for Roberta. This city thanks you. And Alderwoman Tierney wanted to read your citation, Roberta.
Yes, I asked Gavin if I could read the citation, and you probably know why. Roberta and I have worked closely together since she's been here. And yeah, we had a very exciting beginning with the murals in the bike lane and everything else. But no, it was fine. It was fine. It all worked out okay. But on behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we would like to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of your service to the residents of the City of Annapolis as Chief of Historic Preservation for the past 3 years. In Annapolis, there is truth that people don't like the process of historic preservation, but they love the outcome. Your work is crucial to helping us to maintain the character of our historic areas. And we all know that there is no person who works harder and has a more thorough grasp of their issue area. We've heard rumors that you can get 400 pages of specifications on one day and be prepared to discuss the intricacies of the work the next. We wish you every happiness in your retirement. Given under our hands in the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis this 10th day of May, 2021. Signed, all of the councilmen. Am I allowed to get up? No,
You get a lot.
It occurred to me just now that we're celebrating two extreme events, weather and preservation. Please bear with me. I will speak more quickly with prepared remarks. Thank you, Mayor Buckley. Thank you, Alderwoman Tierney. It has truly been the highest honor and pinnacle of my professional career to hold this position, not just to administer codes and guidelines and honor the iconic landmarks, but also to appreciate the abundance of details that make up the preservation fabric of this amazing city. The interplay of small and large, short and tall, shadow and dimension that form an assemblage of parts that survive generation after generation. All around me, I see the best examples of historic materials: gauged arches, header bond brickwork, OG moldings, old growth porches, galleted foundations, German siding, foliated hinges, butter joints, 6/6 wood windows, turn roofs, split lath, native sandstone, oyster shell mortar. Really, a complete preservation dictionary right in front of our eyes. How lucky we are. How lucky we are. I want to thank all the city employees who supported me in preserving this remarkable combination of details. In particular, my very small historic preservation division, especially John Tower sitting there in the back, my right hand, as well as the planning and zoning staff and my directors, first Pete Gutwald and now Sally Nash. I'm also very grateful for my consultants, Michael Dowling, architect, Jeannie Ward and her outstanding archaeology staff, and Shelley Wrench, landscape architect. And really, whenever I was stumped on a when, where, or who question, the great historians Jean Russo and Jane McWilliams came immediately, often in minutes, to my rescue. My thanks as well to Annapolis and state citizens and organizations who supported me, to city council members, to our city manager, and to you, Mayor Buckley, who, as you indicated, I first met 4 years ago when you came to the 3rd floor of Gorman to personally submit an application, literally stunning the permit counter staff who begged for my assistance. I think you scared them to death. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Sally, can you come up for a quick picture? We're going to jump down there. Ellie?
Yeah.
Business on the top.
Yeah.
When is going to be the first one of us to run into one of these screens? Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, with first starting with update from the mayor.
Before I start the updates, we would like to inform everybody that Kimler, Milburn, Thompson service will be on Saturday, May 15th at 3:30 to 4:30 at JB Jenkins Funeral Home. That is 7474 Landover Road, Hyattsville, Maryland. And our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Her obituary was in the Washington Post this morning. For those that get the Post, you can picture with a little write-up that was very nicely done.
Thank you, Alderman Payne. And how many of you guys served with her? Thank you.
Ross did, but he's dialing his phone. Served with Kimla.
I met her a couple of times, but I never served under her.
Okay, Thank you. All right, so the band's back together. Thank you all for being here. From here out, we expect our city council meetings to be held in person. I want to assure the public that we are moving forward on a plan to get the public back into City Hall. We are taking it one step at a time. While the members of this council have been vaccinated and gone through their 2-week inoculation period, we have an obligation to look out for our city staff who help run these meetings. I assure you, we will get there. We need to take steps to ensure the public health, and that is what we are doing currently. For tonight, we'll be bringing in testimony via remote. Remember that you can sign up to offer public testimony by visiting annapolis.gov and using the keywords City Council Public Testimony. So Annapolis is coming back. We have plans for a wonderful Independence Day weekend. We will share more in the coming weeks, but we are planning on a parade, tall ships in the harbour, fireworks, and live music and cultural arts events and activities around the city. I mentioned this at our last meeting, but I'd like to get into a little more detail about some other events that we have planned as we continue to reopen. The first is the Juneteenth event on June 19th in Annapolis. Juneteenth is often referred to as America's second Independence Day. It is a holiday that began in Texas when enslaved persons learned of their emancipation on June 19th, 1865, 2 months after Robert E. Lee surrendered and 2.5 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Over the years, Juneteenth has become a more significant holiday. In 1979, the state of Texas made it a paid Texas state holiday. In the 1980s and 90s, it gained popularity and became more widely celebrated. Most states now recognize it in some fashion, either as a state holiday or as a ceremonial observance. The city of Annapolis, as of 2020, has recognized Juneteenth as Freedom Day with a proclamation. This year, the Annapolis Juneteenth Committee will host the event with a VIP event at MC3 on June 18th, then a parade that will start at City Dock, a site of significant importance because it's where enslaved persons were brought to Annapolis. From there, a parade will go up to Maryland Hall. There will be family-friendly activities at Bates Athletics Complex. For more information on Juneteenth, please visit www.annapolisjuneteenth.org. Alderwoman Finlayson has been very involved with the planning of this event, and I want to thank her for her work in bringing this celebration to Annapolis. We'll give you a little... My office, along with County Executive Stuart Pittman, will be hosting a Black Wall Street event on May 30th. This year is the 100th anniversary of the Greenwood Massacre in Tulsa, which was one of the most successful, established, and wealthiest black business districts in the nation. A massacre was carried out by mobs of white residents, with 800 people hospitalized and more than 24 people killed. That happened between May 31st and June 1st in 1921. On May 30th, 2021, the event in Annapolis will take place in People's Park and will feature local black-owned businesses and local artists and musicians. If you want more information or want to get involved, contact Adetola Ajayi in my office at 410-972-6257. On Friday, we get to cut the ribbon at 2 new resource centres. We got to cut the ribbon at 2 new resource centres at Robinwood and Harbour House. I want to thank everyone who made these 2 sites possible, including the Housing Authority for the City of Annapolis, which has worked with HUD to permit 2 residential units to be used. Assistant City Manager Lynn Farrow, Artist Commissar Brown, Police Chief Edward Jackson, Housing Authority Director Melissa Maddox Evans, and many others. At these sites, residents will be able to get access to resources and services. It is a place where our city social work team can connect residents to resources and services, not only from the city, but also from partners like non-profit organizations. It will be a place to connect people to services like medical and mental health care, workforce development, job training, substance use reduction, prevention, childcare, food insecurity, elder care, and domestic violence prevention, and much, much more. We welcome Erica Griswold to the social work team. The resource centers are open to all residents of Annapolis. The locations are Robinwood at 1453 Tyler Avenue and in Harbour House at 1155 Madison Street, apartment S4. Call Erin Lee, the social worker care coordinator at 410-562-0169. A shout out to everyone who participated in the May baskets. It's so nice to see our city bringing back elements of normalcy and tradition. Thank you to the Garden Club and the Downtown Annapolis Partnership. We continue on this path of returning to normalcy as long as we continue getting residents vaccinated. So please, please get vaccinated. Appointments are no longer required at all locations. In Annapolis, show up at Pip Moyer Center on Wednesday or Thursday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's at 273 Hilltop Lane in Annapolis. The mass vaccination site at the Naval Academy Stadium is open in the morning for walk-ups, and you can get appointments at massvax.maryland.gov or call 855-634-6829. We have community clinics in convenient places like local churches run by our Take Care team. Call 443-875-2261 to find out more. You do not need to be a citizen. You do not need insurance. The vaccines are free and safe and protect you and your loved ones from this deadly virus. In addition, the Anne Arundel County Public Schools are offering vaccine clinics for eligible students. The public library is offering vaccines tomorrow at the library at the mall, and again next Thursday at the 20th at the library at the mall. Evening appointments are available at Anne Arundel Community College. Visit annearundelcounty.org/COVIDvax for more information. And I want to congratulate Brooks Du Bois of the Capital newspaper, who took first place in his coverage of our efforts to expand bicycle and pedestrian transportation options. Brooks didn't know what he was in for when we asked him to join me on a ride to Waterworks Park. He survived. Congratulations to Brooks and other reporters who were recognized. Speaking of bicycles, Bike to Work Day is next Wednesday, and instead of gathering at Market House like we have in the past, members of the public are encouraged to ride their bicycles to work on their own. There will be a pit stop at locations in the area. In Annapolis, it's VeloCycles in Parole. Later on Wednesday at 6:45 p.m., there will be a ride of silence to honor cyclists killed or injured. Annapolis Police Bicycle Patrol will lead us through Annapolis and Eastport. We are meeting at Germantown Elementary School for that ride. Commissioning Week is happening in the city between May 23rd and Commissioning Day on May 28th. Please expect traffic delays during this time, especially with Vice President Kamala Harris as commencement speaker. We are so excited to have her, the first female vice president in our city. Let's hear it for that. The Blue Angels will arrive on Tuesday, May 25th, and there will be a flight demonstration on Wednesday, May 26th. There will be maritime restrictions during that time. While Governor Hogan has released restrictions on masks in the outdoors, if you plan on being downtown, we kindly request that you bring your mask in the event that it gets too crowded. If it is crowded, please, if you're too close to people, keep your mask on. COVID is still out there, and even if you've been vaccinated, not everybody else has. As a kindness, please wear your mask. If you can't be physically distanced from people, not in your group. We congratulate our MIDs on making it through their 4 years in a very strange pandemic time. So let's go, Navy, and let's get on with our meeting. Thank you all. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Reports by committee.
Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This is great not looking at a screen here like I do this.
I'm trying to look for my electric hand. You have on your desks a report from the Finance Committee. It's brief and concise, so I'll read it. Not. But what I will do is start by thanking all of the staff that helped make this labor, I won't call it a labor of love, I'll just call it a labor, possible, starting with the city manager, the director of finance, Dickinson, Katie Conley from finance, who spent many, many hours with us and were extremely helpful. We also want to thank all the department heads who presented to us and came to 3 city council-wide meetings, and I think we had a very good dialogue with them. We thank Ms. Green, Julian Jacks, and Mark Hillebrand, who kept us up and running and on screen during long, long hours. So we thank them very much. I want to thank the members of the Finance Committee and all the members of the City Council who attended. My remarks from here on out will be old news to most of us because we lived through it. We made this news. But I'll start by saying that we had reports from all of the department heads using the performance management system, giving us their goals and benchmarks and accomplishments, and then discussing both their staffing and their finance requirements, their spending and those sorts of things. We also heard from the Davenport, who are our financial advisors and advised us on our debt capacity. And we also heard from Mr. Hyder on our fees for the enterprise funds. The committee findings were that the budget conforms to city code. It was presented on time. It's balanced. It contains line item detail, all of the things that are set forth in Title VI. And on the line item detail, new this year, and again, great thanks to Katie Conley, we have a new system called OpenGov, which allows us to open up the numbers and look at them every which way, chart them, plot them, dissect them, do percent changes, and that is a major, major advance. And while I'm talking about that, and we really, I think this year have finally hit our stride with budgeting with the finance director. The whole process was very open, easy to follow, was easy to find the data, and in that regard, it was quite a delight to work on that. We did some year-to-year analysis, which was confounded by COVID, as so many things were. Some of our spending and revenues were down, particularly for parking and transit. On the other hand, we had some big inflows of one-time only federal dollars. So it was really hard to compare fiscals 20, 21, and 22 years to each other because there were a lot of moving parts. The Finance Committee recommends approval by majority vote of Ordinance 10-21, the annual budget appropriations and tax levy. This includes the capital budget and the capital improvement program. We also passed by unanimously the 3 resolutions from the budget, one for fees and one for, pay and compensation, one for fees and one for fines. The committee also looked favorably on 01121, which is coming up on tonight's agenda. It is compensation of the city manager and the city council, and it does have budget implications. And finally, we looked at the fund balance requirements, cash flow position, and debt capacity for the city, and we found everything in good standing. The committee does express in its report some concerns about out years. Revenue sources, we certainly could use some more different sources, and that was discussed. And the rate of growth of our revenue. We looked at the rate of growth at personnel costs. In that regard, again, assuming that we're facing some out-year concerns, the committee recommends we take 2 actions to prepare for the coming years. First is to form a task force to officially look at outsourcing of services, particularly to the county. Many people have been bringing this up to us. We think it's time to actually flesh that out, find out whether that's even a possibility, and if a possibility, whether it would really save anything, and what we give up if we were to do that. The second thing that we call for is to conduct a survey to measure servants' preferences by citizens, businesses, and visitors. Again, there's always talk from constituencies about cutting the size of the budget. We need to know if people want that done, where they want it done, how much they want it done. So we think doing this survey so we can actually point to what the citizens want is a good idea. We summarized in the financial report were these findings, but also discussions that we had with the council at large, with the various department heads, starting with police, but also a long discussion with fire, transportation, public works, and then an evening where we had all of the department heads and office directors here, and we had a general conversation. Those things are summarized in our report. I hope we captured everything that colleagues brought up, but we'll still have time to discuss those as we proceed with the budget process. We have some new procedures for the budget this year. Deadline for presenting budget amendments is next Monday, the 17th. The council will then hold a work session on Thursday, May 20th, to discuss together those amendments. There will be a special meeting of the City Council on June 7th to vote on the budget with any amendments, and then a final vote on the budget on the 14th of June. And then we can get our lives back. So thank you. I hope you find the report from the Finance Committee useful. And again, I do want to thank my 2 colleagues, Alderwoman Finlayson and Alderman Payone. I thought we worked well together, and I think we put in quite a good effort. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett. Alderman Payone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did you mention Takia? Did you mention Takia? Okay, okay. Just making sure. No, we wouldn't. And I'm aware of that. I did not hear her name, and I'm very glad you did. Mr. Mayor, the Audit Committee will be meeting on Monday. It will be as I understand it, Mr. City Manager, it will be a virtual meeting. On Monday, we perhaps can discuss at that time whether our future meetings will be virtual or in person. It starts at 8 o'clock, and I believe if you go to the city website, the public can find out how exactly to follow the meeting. We are talking about performance standards. Not a coincidence, I suppose, that we're dealing with the budget also at this time. Our performance statistics are for only half a year, so they don't really tell us what we need to be told, I think, in terms of applying it to the budget, but be that as it may, it's a start. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other reports? Alderman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Standing Committee was supposed to meet on Monday, May the 3rd. However, I had a death in my family, and since then I've had another one. So we're trying to reschedule our May meeting, but hopefully we can, because we're going to have the police department legislation to discuss at that meeting. Hopefully we can meet, like I said, reschedule in May, but the next meeting in June, the meeting in June is scheduled for Monday, June the 7th at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thanks. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee will meet next Monday, Takia, at 6. I did have a question, though, as it related to possible legislative actions from the committee. Mr. City Attorney, well, let me first, there have been a number of issues as it relates to the mold issues in public housing. And I'm sure everybody's seen the newspaper and the unfortunate death of a constituent who it is believed, again, this is all alleged at this point, to have passed away from breathing in mold for a long period of time. The issue is that the state requirement for how you test mold is not sufficient. And so you can go in, test for a certain level, and everything is good. I know Delegate Henson is fighting that on a state level to have that change. My ask is that from a city level, are we able to strengthen the regulations of mold requirements within the city as it relates to city inspections? So require city inspectors to test to a different level to trace mold in these apartments. Is that something that we could do?
I think that'd be an appropriate topic for an executive session. Because the city is being sued on some of these issues and answers may be implicated in the lawsuit, I prefer not to answer in open forum. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, well, I'd like to have that executive session to see what solutions we can do to help people.
Alderman Savage.
Yes, environmental matters will be meeting, I'll find my date here, I think it's next week. And but we've had two meetings last month, and we started discussing the comprehensive plan, and in particular the environmental goals and policy recommendations that are in the draft plan. It's been a very good discussion with planning and zoning staff, and we're going to be having one more at our next meeting, which is going to be focusing on water resources. So, by anybody who wants to come participate, they're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Shanamar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Economic Matters will be meeting on Wednesday, May 12th at 6:30 p.m. here in Chambers.
Okay, thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is comments by the general public.
Okay, we have live testimony. Rebecca Brenia from 99 Old Crossing Lane. Welcome to our second live Zoom.
Hello.
How you doing, Rebecca? If you could just state your name and address for the record, and then welcome.
Thank you. My name's Rebecca Brenia, and I live at 99 Old Crossing Lane. I'm here tonight on behalf of the West Annapolis Civic Association and the 115 residents who signed a letter asking you all to reconsider your vote on 05-21 this evening. The purpose of that ordinance was to make the city code consistent with the city's longstanding policy that the Tucker Street boat ramp permits be limited to city residents only. A simple and accurate explanation for that policy can be found on the city's website, which says, quote, "Please note that this ramp is not capable of large boat use. Parking for vehicles, boat trailers is extremely limited." Given these physical restrictions, it came as a surprise that this ordinance was perceived as being exclusive or trying to restrict the use of the Tucker Street waterfront. I just wanted to say to all of you that nothing could be further from the truth. West Annapolis is such a warm and welcoming neighborhood, and we want everyone to enjoy our little piece of the public waterfront. And whether that's people launching boats or just walking or fishing or kayaking or canoeing. But in order to make space for all of those activities, we need to carefully manage the boat trailer parking in the area. And our concern about opening up the permits to all 524,000 Anne Arundel County residents is that that's really an unlimited number of $25 permits that create a right to launch the boat and park in an area with really limited parking that's residential and next to an elementary school, and also the launching point for rescue operations on Weems Creek and the Severn. Notably, Tucker Street is the only street and park in the city that's not located in a special parking district. So there really aren't any limits on where trailers can park. And when they stack up on both sides of Monterey and the other small side streets, it reduces visibility, which is unsafe for cyclists and pedestrians, and also makes the area less enjoyable for people trying to enjoy the waterfront on foot. We are not aware of any parking study that was done in the area recently, and it's not known how many boat trailers can safely and comfortably park, but we know it's a small number, and we're afraid that the permits could be more popular than expected because the price is so low. At $25 a year, that's a third of the price of a permit at Truxton Park. And I'm sure nobody intended to undercut the parking at Truxton and redirect traffic to Tucker Street, but that is something that could happen. So in about a year, the city is going to spend $320,000 to improve the boat ramp and make other improvements, including a floating dock that's going to be ADA accessible, which is really exciting for the neighborhood, and we look forward to welcoming people to that improved area. And perhaps at that time, the city could explore some automated controls and trailer parking that might make it more appropriate with the residency restriction. But for now, most of our neighbors think that it makes sense to keep the city residency permit in place and give us some time to explore parking options. So we would ask that you please reconsider and vote yes on 05-21 as originally drafted. But if you cannot do that, please do consider reversing your vote and on allowing the permits to be sold by county residents and give the neighbors an opportunity to implement some sensible parking regulations. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, we also have some written testimony here from Bill Malley at 1100 West Street, Annapolis, Maryland, on 08-21, dwelling above non-residential uses in the PM district. Thank you, Mr. Malley, for that testimony. And Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Got a second for that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please, is it roll call?
Yes.
So,
Mayor Buckley,
aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shandemeyer,
Aye.
Alderman Gay. Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is business and miscellaneous items. Supplemental appropriations is the first. SA 3221, Planning and Zoning, Primrose School Franchising Company revenue.
Can I get a motion to approve that?
Excuse me, point of order. That was on the consent calendar.
No, 8 was on the consent calendar.
SA 3221 through FT 821, at least on the agenda I'm looking at.
So
Or
my
on the
agenda has
consent.
FT 21. Okay, so that's just, we voted on that, right?
This is the agenda,
So, oh, it's approval of the agenda, that's all approval of the agenda, right? So-
FT 8 is on the consent calendar, and FT 7 and 9 were over the amount that we could put on the consent calendar. That's why they're in a separate place on the agenda.
My fault. Yep, you're right. My fault. Sorry. So the next item is fund transfers. FT 721 is the next item.
So a motion to approve FT-7-21.
So move.
Second.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is fund transfer FT 9-21.
Through a motion.
So
to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is public hearings continued, starting with O-1221.
Alderman
Mr. Mayor,
Gay.
I actually did have a quick question on F721, FT-7-21.
Okay, it's been closed, but
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I mean, I can't do anything about it, but it's $52,000 for mold testing.
let me hand it over to Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, so that's actually for both mold testing and safe facilities, but also we had a couple buildings that had to be remediated during this fiscal year, so it's to pay for the remediation of mold in those buildings as well.
Who was that contracted out to?
Do you have the answer, Director Johnson?
What facility was it? An entire building that was infested with mold or something?
Stanton Center, I think.
But
Could you come to the mic, please?
It was the OEM operating center over on Tyler Avenue.
Then they charged $52,000.
It was a combination of, several buildings that were largely the fire department and the OEM that contributed to that cost.
Okay, thank you.
Mold remediation is not a cheap exercise, unfortunately.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, let's do that again.
Next item is public hearings continued, O-1221, police enhancement and community engagement.
And we're keeping that open. I see Alderman Savage closing it. Yeah, okay, thank you. So no testimony has been received on that. I declare the public hearing on O-12-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, ID 11021, City of Annapolis, notice of proposed real property tax increase.
Thank you. We have received no public testimony on it. I declare the public hearing on ID 110-21 left open until Monday, May 24, 2021.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Alderman Arnett.
received correspondence from constituents. I feel that there's a misunderstanding about the constant yield requirement from the state. I believe the state requires us to say what the tax rate would be if we were going to keep the revenue constant. In other words, not reflect any increase. I think people feel that we're supposed to, by state order, lower the tax rate to this 1.43% per 100 of assessed value. I think that we have done a much better job in recent years letting people know about the constant yield and publicizing it, but I think that there's still some confusion, misunderstanding. I'm not sure how we address it, but I think we do need to make a more assertive statement about what the constant yield requirement is from the state and what it is not. And then what we are saying is that we are not going to do constant yield. We're going to keep the tax rate constant and therefore benefit from any increases in the assessed value. So I'm not sure exactly what we do from my statement, but I can tell you that there are quite a few people, at least in my ward, who have written to me who are concerned about this. I think also don't really understand what this constant yield notice is about. As it happens, we do have someone who used to work for the city who actually wrote that legislation for then State Senator Cardin, and that's Bob Agee. And there's a specific reason why the state put this requirement out, and I think we need to do a little bit more elaboration on just what's going on. I'm not sure I'm explaining it very well myself, but it is a source of consternation among some.
Can we get any clarification in a short form from Director Dickinson, or it does not have a short form?
It's complicated. It's hard to do short.
Alderman Arnett explained it correctly. The constant yield is the tax rate that we would set if we were going to raise the same amount of tax dollars on the properties that existed a year ago. And if we were going to, we would be collecting $750,000 less. Now, keep in mind that doesn't take into account new properties that have been added to the rolls. That doesn't count in the constant yield calculation. So we would collect on extra funding on those. It also doesn't include any increase from the Park Place properties that are in the county TIF.
It's new properties, it's increased value of property. So when people do renovations, when people sell their house for more than they purchased it, all of those things are embodied in that assessed value. And as we have more things coming on the rolls, we have more expenses in order to provide services for those. So I would be happy to work with the city manager and the finance director, but I do feel that there's some unnecessary anxiety on the part of people because they don't quite understand what the state requirement is.
Thank you, Alderman Annette. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Are we leaving this open? I wasn't sure that I heard you say that.
Yep, it's open till May 24th.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 0520, moderately priced dwelling units.
Okay, we have received no testimony on this as well. I declare the public hearing on 0-50-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 0421, medical cannabis dispensaries.
Again, we've received no testimony on this. I declare the public hearing on 0-4-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 01421, Resilience Authority of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, for the purpose of establishing the Resilience Authority of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County.
No written testimony on this either. I declare the public hearing on 0-14-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, just making sure you closed on 0421. I must have missed that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, next section is legislative actions. First reader, 01321, Urban Renewal Projects Repeal. For the purpose of repealing the Annapolis City Code provisions relating to urban renewal projects, providing provisions for the exercise of state law powers relating to development and redevelopment, including comprehensive renovation or rehabilitation, requiring the Affordable Housing Community Equity Development Commission to review certain development projects, providing definitions, and providing for the application of the ordinance, etc.
Is there a motion to adopt O-13-21 on first reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We can refer this to Economic Matters Committee and the Rules of City Government Committee. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 01321 on first reader.
Is there a motion to adopt
I'm sorry, 01521
on first reader?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let's refer O-15-21 to Rules and City Government Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is second readers, beginning with 047. Hold up. Yes, 04721, local zoning map amendment.
Is there a motion to adopt O-47-21 on second reader?
Mr. Mayor, I think we need to correct what is on the printed agenda. It says 04720.
That's what it is. It is.
Is it 20?
I don't know if it's 20 or 21.
I have it down as 21, so sorry. It's 20?
I have it as
both ways.
4720 on the agenda posted on the website.
Okay.
We'll correct it, Mr. Mayor.
No problems. I apologise.
Me too.
Okay, we've got
Well,
a...
I move approval while I'm at it.
Thank you.
I think we got a first and a second. Can I get a second? Thank you. Second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-47-20 on third reader?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, 21.
It's 20, right? You got it. You guys are messing with me. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Yes.
Alderwoman Pindell Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shandemeyer,
Aye.
Alderman Gay, Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 01121, compensation of the aldermen, alderwomen, and city manager.
Is there a motion to adopt O-11-21 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favour with the show of hands. Oh, sorry, show of hands. All those in favour say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
No.
We'll do a roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
No.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
No.
Alderwoman Pindell Charles,
No.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shandemeyer,
Nay.
Alderman Gay,
Yes.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Never mind. Let me not.
3, 4, 5. That motion, that carries.
Carries. 5-4.
Okay.
Did it carry?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt O-11-21 on third reader?
So moved.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
No.
This is third reading.
Okay. Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
No.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
No.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schneidermeyer?
No.
Alderman Gay?
Proudly, yes.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That motion carries.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R 1621, Folks Community Park.
Is there a motion to adopt R-16-21 on second reader?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's a roll call.
Yes, sir.
We got a second, sorry?
You have a second.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye, and I'd like to be a sponsor.
Excuse me?
I'd like to be listed as a sponsor.
Absent. Alderman Schneidermeyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R 1721, Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant.
All right, is there a motion to adopt R-17-21 on second reader?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Can I just?
Yep. Alderman Gay. and then-
Yeah, I'm excited about this as I spoke at the finance meeting. It's a really good opportunity for redevelopment. I encourage my colleagues to just Google Choice Neighborhood Grants, look at some of the programs and the systems that have been set up. We have a example application that was given to us from HACA. You can go over it, view what their plan is. And then also, I thought it was so fitting that on the night the urban renewal is introduced on first reader to be removed, we're passing legislation to help communities that were affected directly by urban renewal. And so full circle now has come to the redevelopment of these properties. But to that point, if you also Google urban renewal grants, the third grant is the Choice Neighborhood Grant. And so this is it's just all perfect, and I'm so excited to see this happen and to hopefully open the door for development.
Thank you. Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps someone could explain to the public what exactly this is, a Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant, and how exactly we expect to be using it. Please don't interpret that question as being one coming from somebody that doesn't intend to vote for it. I do, but I think the public doesn't really know what we're voting on here, and if we could quickly tell them.
I think we can bring Sally up to Director Nash. Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, this is an exciting opportunity to work hand in hand with HACA. We're partnering with them 50-50 on the cost of applying for the grant, and then if we get the grant, moving forward. It's a nationwide, very competitive grant that HUD gives to look at the public housing in question, which in this case we're looking at Eastport Terrace and Harbor House, and the surrounding communities, and how we can write a plan that will benefit the residents of the public housing and the surrounding community as well.
Thank you very much. That's good enough for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This week, we took some important steps forward with the police department to move forward with our community policing, our resource centers in the two departments, and I believe this is an important step forward. This is us partnering with the Housing Authority to plan the redevelopment of two very much in need of redeveloping projects. These are projects where are bordering my ward or in Alderman Gay's ward. Alderman Gay and I attended the meeting where this program was laid out. I think that if we're going to change things, if we're going to address things like conditions that lead to gunfire, gunshots, all of those social ills that we just sort of look the other way, this is an important step. This is a partnership between the city and the Housing Authority to do planning. This is not committing city dollars to redevelop those sites, but it is a partnership where we plan. And I join Alderman Gay and Director Nash in being very excited about this. I think this is a very important step for us to take.
Thank you. Is it a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Big yes.
Alderwoman Tierney.
A bigger yes?
Alderman Payam.
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Shandemeyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
The biggest yes?
Alderman Savage.
A big eye.
Alderman Arnett.
Nay. No, aye.
We meant no, aye.
I'm disappointed no one did.
What kind of vote is that?
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is reconsideration of 0521 Tucker Street launching facility.
So,
You need a motion to reconsider.
so could we get a motion to reconsider again 05-21 on second reader?
No, we need the motion just to reconsider it.
It's just a motion to
added
reconsider.
the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but they still need the motion to actually reconsider it. It has
Okay,
to
we need the
pass.
motion now to reconsider it. Alderman.
Okay, I would move that we reconsider 0521, the Tucker Street launch facility.
Okay, can we get
Second.
a second?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you need a vote on that.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think that there are any number of reasons for reconsidering this. I think there are facts that were not brought to the council's attention, or at least that they didn't have readily available like they do tonight. I would note particularly some work that one of our residents, Mr. Campbell Killifer, drew up. Their photographs attached to that, and they were sent to everyone on the council by me. I'm not sure that the council took into account that there just isn't room for any more trailers, boat trailers on Tucker Street. Nobody is concerned about city residents that use the street. I might add all city residents who use the boat trailer. I would note that anyone can use the park itself, which is very, very small, but we do have people fishing from the shoreline and from the shallow area. We have people who launch boats by, well, for lack of a better way of putting it, by hand, don't use the launch area. I'm talking about kayaks. I'm talking about boats right off a truck that you can, simply put in and go with. As a matter of fact, the last time I was there on Tuesday night, there were a couple of fellows who apparently come along every night and put a boat in. We're fishing right maybe 50 feet from the shoreline. It began to rain, and they came in again to the shoreline, but under a tree, continued to fish. There are so many ways that this launch facility is a blessing to the people of this city. I might add that this is not, 0521 does not call for any sort of a change with regard to use of the boat launch. I did a little bit of research, or some of the folks in Ward 2 did, And as far back as 1990, this was residents only. The signs were up for residents only. The change would be by the amendment and not by what has been there for years and years. Now, there hasn't always been, shall we say, strict enforcement, and that's an understatement. And I'm not intending to throw anybody under the bus when I say that. It's a matter of having the bodies to be able to enforce the residents-only aspect of this. We haven't had the bodies to do that, and I'm not sure we have enough bodies to do it 100% now, but we do have enough to do it, 60, 70, 80% of the time, and that's a whole lot better than it has been. I would call my colleagues' attention to the photographs that I sent around. Tucker Street is a little street. I know that Alderman Arnett at lunchtime indicated that he lived on a narrow street, and I absolutely agree you do. But there is simply not room. If you have people parking or vehicles parked, in this case trailers we're talking about, on one side of the street, there's not room for two cars to get by.
Okay.
And much less to park on the other side. We do have one thing that...
We'll just get it on the floor. So it's a motion to reconsider. We'll vote on that, and then when we get it back on the floor again, you can be first on that. Yeah.
Given reasons that we should reconsider it, but there are a lot of them.
Okay. All those in favor of reconsidering
I'd like to discuss whether we should reconsider. Alderman Payon launched into the reconsideration. I think there should be debate about whether or not we should reconsider, and I have a point of information I'd like to ask. When we reconsider, are we going back to the original ordinance, and therefore we have to take up all of the amendments again that we passed the last time, or are we only reconsidering the amendment that was made from the floor, which was the one that opened it to county residents?
Yes, you are reconsidering the ordinance as adopted, which includes all the amendments.
So it would include all of the amendments?
Yes.
So we do not have to go back and
You don't have to piecemeal it, no.
address. All right,
No.
all right. So, all right.
Because the motion to reconsider opens it up, and then once it's opened up, you can then discuss changing it as you wish.
All right. Thank you for that point of information.
Alderman Savage.
That's helpful to know. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, because that was one of my concerns, is I didn't want to relitigate every single amendment, even those we agreed on. So with that said, I'm not sure if I'll change how I vote, but we'll see what the discussion goes like, but I'll at least vote in favor of reconsideration.
Okay. Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Payon, the offending amendment was Amendment 7, correct? That is what you are ideally trying to remove when this is reopened? The insert after city, insert or county?
I believe it was Amendment 5. Just a minute.
5 and 7.
No, 7 was the last one that we dealt with. So yes, that's the way we left it.
Okay, 7 is the...
Including city and county.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On last Tuesday evening, as Alderman Payon indicated, I accompanied him down to Tucker Street, and you really need to see it to really understand the close proximity and how tight it is down there. We talked to the residents for probably about 40 minutes. It was a downpour, but there were many residents there who expressed their concern about the small nature of trying to maneuver down there, and we could actually see it. And Alderman Payon indicated that the photos were very stark, but what we saw real time on site was what he has indicated this evening.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly, and that you did the same thing.
I figured that would help people to determine whether to reconsider. That's why I made that statement.
Let's take a vote on it now. Motion to reconsider O-5-21 on second reader.
Mr. Mayor, I also have Deputy Chief from the Fire Department here this evening. If we do reconsider, and at the appropriate time, I would be calling him as a witness. I don't know that that would be right now, but he has some things that I think the council should know about.
Okay, let's just get it on the floor.
Regarding safety from the fire department's perspective.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-5-21 on second reader?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's to adopt as amended on third read last time, right?
So we are adopting the amended one. I'll let Mike.
Yes, it's the motion to adopt 0521 as on second reader as amended.
Okay.
As amended by?
Through amendments 1 through 7. All the amendments. We provided them to you.
So it's on the floor.
So time for discussion?
Yes, discussion. Alderman Savage.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, I'll start off by saying, and I may have said some of this last time, we'll have some deja vu tonight probably, but I did at one point support the restriction to only city residents. In fact, when it was in committee, I was advocating that. But what changed my mind is, you know, I send out email newsletters to my constituents asking for feedback, and that's what I got. And my county neighbors, who are also on the list, did not like being cut out of this. And so that changed my mind, because I think we should be good neighbors. I don't think there's been a clearly established impact from the county residents. And it sounds like I think they're being more governed by fear about the possibility. And I think it was even stated at one point by the primary sponsor or in the testimony that it was a fear that opening this up to the county by code would bring in more county residents. That has not been proven yet. I think what we passed is a reasonable compromise. We're getting heat from both sides here. We're getting heat from people who want to open it up completely, and we're getting heat from people who want to close it, essentially to completely just to city residents. So I think the compromise was, look, we have a permit process, and we have a restriction that's going to at least allow county residents. I think the permit process itself, I think, is going to act as a deterrent. And I think that's reasonable for us to just move forward and see how that works. We can always change things, but to jump right away to completely cutting out our county neighbors. And I understand that's how the code, how it was before. I'm being told, you know, currently it just wasn't enforced, but that's in practice, the county and anybody's been using that ramp. And I just think now that we have an option an opportunity to move forward, I think we should either keep it as is, or I mean, we're getting also a lot of testimony from people, like I said, who want to open it back up, including from our county council person for this district. And she also raises some very good points about other areas that she's visited in Hawaii where there's public waterfront. Nobody owns the waterfront there. But also I think in terms of the Chesapeake Bay, we want to be encouraging people to get onto the bay. And, you know, when I go visit other areas, I want to be able to access these types of water access areas. So that's kind of my concern at this point. So I do think we should stick with compromise. If parking is truly an issue, I think we can work on that. Alderman could work on that in terms of creating new restrictions for parking over there if that is truly an issue. But I also think we need to watch out. During COVID, all of our waterfront properties, including in you know, all the maritime industry in Ward 7, has had an uptick in activity. More people are going out on the water. So are we going to legislate based on what is potentially a blip on the radar in terms of an atypical year with the heightened use? I don't know if that's how we should necessarily legislate. I think we'd be jumping too much to an extreme if we decide to put restrictions back on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So As I testified at the last council meeting when we heard this, I'm opposed to restricting it to anyone. I think access to the water is a human right, and I think that the issue that this legislation is attempting to address is misguided. I think the issue really is a parking issue and not a water access issue. I do agree that there's a limitation to the ramp. It can't accommodate boats over a certain size. And I also do agree that the enhancements at that ramp are for things other than launching boats on trailers. But it does seem to me that we should not be restricting anyone's access to the water anywhere, that we can avoid doing that. If there's a problem with large trailers in the neighborhood, maybe we need to look at parking restrictions or parking enforcement. But I don't think we should be restricting access to the water. I did not vote even for the compromise. I think that restricting access to the water, but I'm willing to accept the compromise of having city and county. We'll see how it works. I mean, none of this legislation is immutable. If we try a fix and it doesn't work, we can always come back and visit it. So my druthers would be not to limit water access at all.
Alderman Pan?
Mr. Mayor, I do have some safety testimony to present this evening, but I also would like to say that the city is paying for this in its entirety. This isn't an expense we're sharing with the county or the state. We had the opportunity to get at least the possibility of a grant 2 years ago, I believe, and we turned it down because it was a city residents only. Well, we didn't turn it down. We were turned down because we had a city residents only regulation and the state grant would not allow us to do that. We made the decision at that time to stay the way we were and to make a go of it on our own. And that's what we're doing. I think this kind of defeats the purpose of that decision. I think that Deputy Chief Spriggs would like to be heard a little bit about what effect the parking there has on the fire department. You're right, I don't have a parking study to present, parking study. I don't have a traffic study to present. Wish I did, but I don't. I could maybe if this were postponed, I might be able to come up with one or both of those things, but I can't do it tonight. I do have the deputy chief from the fire department here, and I think that we ought to hear what he has to say.
Okay, Deputy Chief Spriggs, please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you make sure that's on? The light has to be on.
It's on. Yes, sir.
You could probably lecture me about that, but thought I'd remind you. Tell us a little bit about the fire department and Tucker Street. Are you familiar with Tucker Street?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar with Tucker Street
Yes,
in West
sir, I am.
Annapolis?
Yes, I am.
Tell us, what does the fire department use the launching area for, if anything?
Sure. As you're all aware, we operate a fireboat out of Eastport, but we also operate a rescue boat out of the Taylor Avenue station. And that's a rigid hull inflatable, so it's a smaller vessel. And the crew from Taylor Avenue station actually launches from the boat ramp into Tucker Street. And it is actually the first marine asset that we can get into Weems Creek and also into some portions of the Severn River.
Tell us what effect traffic at that boat launch would have if you were answering an emergency either on the water or at the end of Tucker Street.
So as with any ramp, it could reduce our response times. I happen to drive down there again today just to look around. And as Alderman Arnett pointed out, the potential's there for a huge parking issue. I believe there's enough adequate space for maybe 4 or 5 vehicles to park as you're going into Tucker Street on the left side, and they would be facing out away from the boat ramp. There's no parking signs along the right side as you're going in, all the way down and into the cul-de-sac. There was also some red curbs all the way down into the cul-de-sac. So we'd be looking at maybe some increased response times or increased times with launching our vessel if there were indeed a lot of vehicles and a lot of boat trailers down there.
Have you ever been down there when there was a fair amount of boat traffic?
I have, yes,
or
sir.
Trailer traffic?
Yes, sir.
What was the effect of that when you were down there?
Well, I fortunately wasn't down there to launch a vessel. I was just down there looking around. So I can tell you that our crews may experience a difficult time getting the utility and the boat trailer turned around and back down into the ramp.
How do you think a big fire truck would do?
We have tight city streets. We'd make it in. I mean, it'd be tight, but we would, they'd make do.
Faster or slower than normal?
Tucker Street's kind of small, so we couldn't go too fast anyway downhill, but.
Do you think that if there is a trailer parked on either side, that has any effect on the fire department's ability to get down there?
If someone were to park illegally on the right side of Tucker Street going down where the no parking
Not that
signs
ever
are.
happens, of course.
Correct.
But
If they were to park illegal, then we would not be able to access that facility, that launching facility at the end of Tucker Street.
all right. What about the traffic at the end actually backed up trying to get into the launch itself?
That could potentially be an issue as well. I think for the most part, boaters are pretty good. If they see an emergency vehicle coming, they'll move out of the way. But you always run that risk of someone not doing that and then hampering our ability to launch into
We do
Weeds
have a
Creek.
pretty good water source down there if there were a fire at the end.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have nothing else. If my colleagues would like to question.
Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Deputy.
Good evening, ma'am.
Let me be clear. There is only parking on one side of Tucker Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Do boaters park illegally in the cul-de-sac at the end, by the ramp?
I cannot answer that question honestly.
Okay, but if they did, then that would hamper your ability to...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they're already allowed to park only on one side.
Yes, ma'am.
And thus you have what may be tantamount to 2 lanes going down into, or maybe a little less with that narrow street.
Maybe a
before
lane and a
Annapolis.
half, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like to me that parking is the issue.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not as familiar with the area. I know where the school is, of course. Would there be another location for trailers to go instead of using Tucker Street?
So if it were the weekend, perhaps the city could contact the Board of Education and utilize the elementary school parking lot, but I'm not sure how feasible that would be.
Okay, do they have a parking lot? I didn't think they had a
Bus
parking
lane,
lot.
or how much space
Okay.
they have over there, but it's not much.
Okay, but it's already restricted parking on one side of the
Yes,
street.
ma'am.
Do you happen to know whether it's only on Tucker Street? What's that first cross street there?
There's no place to park along that street as well. No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Alderman Annette.
Chief Spriggs, could you tell us the nature of the vehicle that is launched by the fire department there? Is it a fire truck, or is this something that's a trailer pulled by a pickup truck?
It's a pickup truck that pulls a rigid hull inflatable rescue boat.
Right.
So the boat's trailered.
In
Yes,
other
sir.
words, it's not fire truck width, it is a smaller vehicle.
Correct.
Right. So then it should not have any more problem than just a normal vehicle pulling down there, right? So again, it seems to me that the real issue is devolving down into, this is a parking and parking enforcement issue. I do not think we can stop people from parking trucks with trailers on them in any legal parking space. And if they are legally parking and getting in the way of any traffic, that's a parking enforcement issue, and there should be ticketing. So unless the alderman wants to postpone consideration tonight until we can get parking people here to discuss it, transportation, and talk about where the parking is allowed and not allowed. It seems to me that this is a parking issue. I think it's a parking issue whether it is city residents parking there, or county residents parking there, or people from out of the county parking there. A parking issue is a parking issue. And I don't hear anything that says that this is a fire truck safety issue, because we're not driving a fire truck down there. We're driving a pickup truck with a trailer on it, just like I would be driving my truck with trailer down there where I wanted to use that ramp. So I thank you. I think you've actually shed a lot of light on this, Chief. I don't think there's a fire safety issue here. I think there's a parking issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for coming out.
Yes, sir.
I guess, so how would you handle it? Would it be handled like your other fire calls? Like if you needed to get down to the ramp, presumably you'd have and if it was an emergency, you'd have your lights and siren on. And,
yes, sir.
And so that would, the boaters, the trucks with trailers would still be obligated to move, right?
They would be, yes, sir.
And so have you had a problem down there currently, or?
Currently, we haven't had any issues to date, no, sir.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Alderman Payne? Oh, sorry. Alderman Gay had his hand up before, so.
Yeah, I'm wondering if my colleague would be open to an amendment. Well, actually, go ahead, Fred.
Alderman Payne, you went to.
Mr. Mayor, I don't doubt that parking is a large part of the problem there. We talked about that very briefly, and I think that, if there were no parking problem, I'm not sure we would be here talking about this evening, but the reality is that there is. And that if you look at those pictures, it's obvious that they can't take, one more trailer coming down there on Tucker Street. It's that simple. This was never intended to be a wide open site to launch your boat. I mean, it's always been a tiny little thing. I mean, the boat launch itself is maybe as wide as from my side of Alderwoman Finlayson's desk to the far side of Alderwoman Tierney's. I mean, it's very small. And there simply is not room for any more trailers down there coming in and putting, depositing a boat. It's not that the creek is overcrowded, but the launching area is overcrowded. It's badly overcrowded, and it can be a safety concern depending on the circumstances. We hope that it never is, but, in terms of asking for a postponement, presumably to get a traffic or a parking information, I don't oppose that. I think that, it might be a good idea. Wish I had it. I don't. They may say there's no problem parking at all. This is all hogwash. If they do, I have to live with it. But I'm willing to wager that that's not what they're going to say. And maybe they can be helpful in pointing out helpful spots, but we need help. We need to do this quickly. If we can turn that around, Mr. Mayor, if we can get some type of a parking study, I don't even know if we can do that, but if we could, I wouldn't mind putting off the vote on third reader until that time.
I think we'll just wait till the city manager gets in here, and I'll just
Okay.
check that with him. Alderman Gay, and then Alderman Finlayson.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I think the issue is, because I don't think that it will be successful, the vote tonight. And so what I'm sitting here thinking is, how do we create a solution? that is not blocking access to the water, or what appears to be blocking access to the water. And as your constituent mentioned tonight, and as we discussed at previous meetings, the issue may be that we have to increase the fee, the permitting fee, or whatever fee we can increase, so that maybe we can hire the appropriate staff. Even if it's for summer months, you can hire somebody for $15 an hour to stand down there at the booth and make sure people have permits or whatever the requirement is, the voter ID. There are a list of 5 things that you can have to show you're a resident of the city. I think that would be a better approach, because I don't believe that it is likely. I mean, the county councilwoman of the area has spoke out against this in great detail via email about the lack of access we have to water here in the county and in the city. Residents have done so too. And so I think the only approach would be to find out some way to get a staff member down there on a rolling basis, or maybe even an hourly basis where that's their job. Maybe have the Harbor's Master's office do some checks or something. But there has to be a solution that is not, banning people from access to the creek. And so I'd be willing to work on that with you. I think that we do need to increase fees in certain areas, so that we can afford to, like as mentioned, provide maintenance and cleanup for the facility. Just a number of things. So I'd be open to doing that with you.
Alderman Finlayson, next.
Thank you. I too am trying to come up with some sort of a compromise. And I noticed Ms. Bellis is not in the room with us. Is there an option of limiting the number of permits for a given period of time? So instead of giving a permit, and I don't know how long, what the duration is now, is it for all summer, all season, or is it for a week or a day? How long do the permits last? If we limited the length of the permit, then that might lead us to limiting the number of vehicles that are on the street. But again, Ms. Bellis or someone would have to give us the data to support how that could work. But again, I think, the issue is getting those vehicles off the street. And if we had staff, we probably do have adequate staff, but additional staff that could monitor to assist the residents and to assist fire if they have to come through there. But just on first blush, why don't we limit our licenses to a dedicated period and limit the number so we're not overloading ourselves? Just an option.
And just for clarification, it's been limited to county and city residents. And as of this moment, like if I wanted to go down right now to the end of Tucker Street and just jump in the creek, I could do so. There's nobody there that would say, like, where's your,
To go down and jump in the creek?
Yeah, to jump it. And I'm not going to, I don't own a boat. I ain't that rich. So
You could do it anytime. You could do that anytime.
Yeah. So, but the point I'm making though is that I think the issue is, even if we say, okay, only city residents, who is going to be the person, the gatekeeper that says, are you a city resident? Are you, because we could pass this, reconsider it, and somebody from Maine could come down here tonight and start paddling in our bay. So I mean, I think the bigger point, as I mentioned, is you're going to need to have some sort of regulatory authority there, I'm blanking on my words, a gatekeeper. You know how they have those little tents, kind of like they did at Truxton. There was like the hut on the side, and there'd be a person in there that would monitor the area. You need something like that.
So you would like to respond?
Mr. Mayor, we can put a gate up there, but it doesn't make sense to do that until we construct the new launching facility that's on the books. It's being planned. I don't know when they'll start work, but it's going to be, within a few months, at least maybe a little farther than that. But we can do that once we have something, but it doesn't make sense to put up an expensive gate that's only going to have to be taken down during construction. In terms of only selling so many, perhaps, we probably could do that, but there may not be any relationship between how many we sell and how many of those people that have bought permits decide to show up at any given time. I'm not an expert in that field. Maybe there's a way of determining that. I'm not aware of it. I can certainly check with the harbor master. She seems to know everything about the water, so maybe she knows about that too.
Yeah, well, and just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that a gate be put up, but that an attendant is there on the scene, especially during the summer months. If that's the concern, you could find a high school kid, open up, pay him as a contract employee, like I said, $15, $12 an hour. They stand there 8 hours a day and monitor the facility at the end of Tucker Street. Just something like that.
I don't know that it would have to be 8 hours a day, to tell you the truth. If it were just till 1 or 2 o'clock on a Saturday and a Sunday, I think that would take care of an awful lot of the problem. But we've got to, discuss it with the harbor master. She'd love to do that, from what she told me, but she simply doesn't have the personnel. But, maybe we can arrange for something in that regard. We're going through the budget now, and maybe there's a little something somewhere that could take care of that. I don't oppose. I think that's a good idea. It's not, you're hardly the first one to, talk about that. I agree with you.
So we probably can't design this on the spot, so let's not do that. But Alderman Tierney had a hand up next.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'd just like to take a step back on this, and thank you, Chief. This is just sort of a general statement. I just want to say this in aldermanic courtesy, having a similar issue with, SDRs and the optics and perhaps unfair characterization of residents. But we passed a bill that was a compromise in that we acknowledged the residents only, but we expanded it to the county, courtesy of Alderman Savage. But the bill, to make it clear, there is public water access for everyone outside of the physical launch ramp itself. I just want that to be clear, that we made it clear in amendment that the launching facility, which is what this ordinance addresses, means the structure designed for launching a motorized watercraft, and does not include any adjacent public beachfront used by non-motorized watercraft. So I just want to make that clear. But I also think it needs to be said that the question of use was not the objective of this legislation. It was to establish procedures for this new structure and transfer, because there was enforcement to be done, transfer that to the harbor master, Title 15. However, due to water access being a city issue and very important, we took it to address it in this ordinance by an amendment which kind of unfairly surprised the residents who had been using it as a residents-only ramp, or since 1990. So I think we need to keep that in perspective, that they sort of had the rug pulled out from underneath them, understanding what the ordinance was for, and then this kind of being overcome by access. And it was a very inopportune time probably to bring this up, to address a specific issue that existed just with the residents only. I mean, it was to address a problem that was very obvious with residents only. But with that said, in response to this public, need for water access, I think that Alderman Savage had no choice really to say, because at that point it had expanded to let's have everyone use it, and then Alderman Savage, in the spirit of compromise, said, let's expand it to the county, and that was a very fair compromise. I would suggest that we wait, as Alderman Arnett suggested. Let's wait and see. I wish maybe it had a sunshine clause to this, because if there was some impact, 90 days from now, we could always go back to residents only. But I am confident with the permitting issue, which is to address the cars. The permit itself will be displayed on the cars or trucks pulling the vans. That I think it will be I think it will be successful, especially in the hands of our harbor master, Beth Bellis. So I thought that needed to be said, that I think that this was our attempt as a fair compromise under the huge issue of water access, and also to make it clear that the public, anyone has access to the beach. Thank you.
So as long as we don't keep saying the same things.
No,
Alderman
this
Arnett
is
was
new.
next, I think.
Right. Now, I will say that I think this legislation is misdirected in limiting access as a solution to a parking problem. But I'll go on to say, if you start looking at the legislation more closely, particularly at the bottom of page 2 and the beginning of page 3, I think, as Alderman Gay started to indicate, we have a real enforcement problem here. We're once again going to be passing legislation that is virtually unenforceable. There's nothing in here that talks about where or how you go to get these tickets, how long they last, all of those things, and who's actually going to go and monitor whether this ticket is in the driver's side window of the pickup truck parked now who knows where. Could be miles away because they couldn't find a legal place to park near the ramp. So, and the harbor master herself, when she testified, said that she would not have the staffing ability to be there to be monitoring these cars constantly. She may be able to check it 1 or 2 weekends out of the month. So once again, we're passing the veneer of addressing a problem, I believe incorrectly, but not really having any enforcement. And so I think that it is bad legislation to pass things that are unenforceable, and that we know are unenforceable. We know we don't have the staff to do it. And I just think that this really needs to be rethought. I certainly would be in favor of a postponement. I'd like to know how far away people have to go with their trailers to park legally, because they may be able to back their thing down the ramp. And Alderwoman Tierney is correct. All of the beach and everything else is not in play here. This is the ramp. This is the people who want to launch their boats. They want to come in, back down, drop the boat off, pull away, go park somewhere. And it's where they're parking that seems to be the issue. And I think there's also an issue of, are they legally using the ramp? Are they permitted to, showing their voter registration card, a water bill or tax bill, city residential parking permit, all of these? Who is going to check all of this and enforce the issuance of these permits and collect the money for the permit? It just is not well constructed.
We keep going across the room. So Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you,
Alderman
Mr.
Gay,
Mayor.
Then Alderman Savage.
Alderman Payne and I did discuss with his residents another alternative, and we thought about Alderman Savage's residents and thought about possibly restricting this to those who reside in the zip codes 21401 and 21403. So that was just something else we kind of...
21409.
That was kind of the third one.
But anyway, 403, we are the MRE.
But that would take care of Alderman Savage's residents on his end in the county. So that was another option.
Thank you, Alderman Gay.
Yeah, just like you said, we've been saying the same stuff for 15 minutes straight. I'm just trying to get to a vote. But
some chicken wings got my name on it.
Amen, right? If I were to add to this, I want to see how the aldermen would feel if I were to add to this legislation an amendment anywhere there's Tucker Street, I would say, and Truxton Park.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Gage. Could you?
I said if anywhere that says Tucker Street, if I said and Truxton Park.
Look, I hadn't thought about that. I got to tell you.
And I don't think you should. The point is I'm showing you. I'm showing you how much we are impacting the access to water and what kind of precedent this sets. That if the people at Truxton Park, which they do, my constituents all the time complain about parking issues at the pool, everywhere. So should I just add to this legislation and Truxton Park to limit access for to limit access to the boat launch at Truxton Park to only city and county residents as well?
Well, this is the only issue that I've studied, and I think that we're actually increasing the possibility of participation at the Tucker Street ramp if we eliminate Anne Arundel County. How would you feel? I know how I would feel if I had a bunch of kids I was bringing down there and I couldn't launch my boat because there are people that aren't from the city that have all the spots in front of me, and it's just not possible to get there. I think that's the way I'm looking at it, that this will increase the ability, the access to water for city residents. You're right, it doesn't do much for the county if I had my way, county residents, but it increases it for the city. That's the target, and that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking there are 3 areas in my ward that offer access to the water, and I could only imagine if every time somebody emailed me and said a car is parked in front of my house, or I had to, walk down the block because we'd be blocking everything. And to the point that my colleague has made, I think this is a parking issue and it should be handled with your traffic study or something, but we just can't do this. We can't. And that's my last comment on it.
Thank you.
Alderman Savage, next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to point out that on the entirety of the Severn River, there are only 2 boat ramps, public boat ramps. 2 for the entirety of the Severn, and that's both. They're both in the city. Yeah, Truxton Park and then Tucker. So, just to put that in perspective. But I do think we're kind of overthinking some of this. People have already spoken about how it's a parking issue, but I think the point I just want to say is that I think it's important for the residents to know that we really are trying to work with them. We are hearing from so many organizations and individuals who want us to lift all the restrictions because there is a big move out there to increase public access for everybody. We have often complained about not liking how the waterfront's private all over town. It's not like that all over. So we're trying to work with them. We put together this compromise because really, honestly, I don't want to have to create a whole new permitting process. That's just, it's more staff costs, more of a headache I really would rather not do that, but we put that forward because it is a compromise, right? We are trying to find a balance between, and not just ignore our county neighbors. And so I really hope that they'll work with us. This is a reasonable compromise. And look, I'm saying out there for the record, if this proves to be a problem still, I'll revisit it. I'll even co-sponsor legislation. But I think we need to take time. And if we want to do a traffic study or something like that, that's going to take time because we need to get good data, which
let's get it right.
Takes time. And we can't just base it off of a COVID summer.
Okay.
But yeah, I just ask that the residents let us, we'll work with them. But I think this is a reasonable compromise at this point.
Mr. Mayor, I would note that the city manager is back, and maybe he could tell us, do we have any money? Could we afford to get a parking study with regard to this? I mean, that obviously is, parking is by any account is a major part of the issues here. I'd like something relatively quick, obviously, and
Do we have any idea how much the cost would be?
you're asking me? Where's Sally? I mean, she left.
We can certainly look into it to see what the cost would be. That's the first information clearly that we need to know is what the cost would be, and then we can look for funding. But we need an estimate of the cost.
I've never really done development work in my private practice. I don't have any idea.
21 and 22.
We can have Dr. Nash figure out how much the cost would be, and then we can look for money. I'm not going to just offer a rough number because I have no idea what it's going to take.
Well, I understand Alderman Arnett has plenty of money left in his educational account, so we can take it from there, I'm sure.
Okay, would you like to postpone, Alderman Payne, or not?
I think so, yes. I would move to postpone certainly the final vote. Where are we? We're on second reader now?
Got a first and a second, but we can postpone it, right, Regina? Yeah. I was going to support you, by the way, Fred.
Okay.
That would have been first.
Well, somebody will tell me where we are, that I'm sure.
So what do we need to do now, Regina? Sorry. Alderman Savage?
If this is postponed, you're right. There's a lot of good in this ordinance, even as amended. Just to point out, it allows the harbor master to enforce the restrictions on using this for commercial purposes and industrial purposes, and it includes a more robust permitting process, and it restricts it to only county residents. So if we postpone this, they're going to be in a worse situation. This is going to help them. I'm trying to make that clear to the residents. This is going to help you by having a permit requirement and by putting some restrictions on the geographical basis. But you've got to work with us. We'll see how this works for you and revisit. But Alderman, I think it'd be a mistake not to pass this in some form.
Well, everybody said parking, 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 and I'm simply trying to present one more study that I think would be helpful. I'm not looking for, I think it's a rather focused study that would be, that we would get, and it would be hopefully within a month or 6 weeks or something.
Well,
relatively quick.
It's going to take time to do that study, and they're going to have to get data points. So somebody's going to be out there manually counting because they don't have a way to estimate this. And so this isn't necessarily a representative month, given they're going to want to get the peaks during the summer to find out daily usage, weekend usage. It's going to be more involved. I used to do traffic studies.
But you could still postpone it 90 days and still be within the time limit. Is that right, Regina? And it will probably take at least that. Alderman Tierney?
I think, to echo Alderman Savage, postponing runs the risk of it opening up to a discussion of whether or not we expand it to all. And I just want to reiterate that this is, we know there's a parking problem, so I am not clear at all on what a parking study would, number one, show. Probably that there's a problem, but they can't predict future usage. I just don't get what that traffic study's objective would be. Again, we know there's a problem, and the ordinance passed is a compromised way of dealing with it, period. Off.
Are you arguing
Alderman
that
Annette?
we just leave it the way it is? Well, we could have saved a lot of time. Just said, let's leave it the way it is and see how it works out. If it isn't working and it really is a parking issue, not a water access issue, then we have time to address the parking issue. So, we've been spending a lot of time. I quite frankly would like to just eliminate all, I'd like to drop lines 45 on page 3 through 11 on page 4, and eliminate all access, and then work on proper enforcement, because this is what it is. It's a parking issue that is not going to be properly enforced. But
Look,
I
Alderman,
think it would be smarter to walk away and live to fight another day.
Alderman Arnett, I'm trying to make up for all the times I haven't done something like this in the last 14 years before I go. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So as it stands now, we have a motion, to adopt it and as it stands, it is with the Savage amendments, basically county and city residents. Would you like to postpone it?
yes.
Okay. And can I get a
I mean,
motion
as
to
of now,
postpone?
that's the law that's on the books.
Right.
Yep.
That's the law that's on the books as of right this minute.
Okay.
And they've sold permits
Well,
pursuant to
What are we
that.
postponing then?
It's back on the floor. It was reconsidered. It's back on the floor, and now we're going to, instead of re-voting on it again, Alderman Pound can
Oh, you're right,
postpone
you're
it.
right. It's not the law that's on the books right now.
Yeah, you would be postponing enactment
Yeah.
for whatever period.
Yeah, okay.
So
Well,
we
that's
need
what
a
I'm asking to do.
a motion to postpone
I
it
think they're
Postpone indefinitely.
for 90.
I don't even know what date to give, to tell you the truth. Mr. City Manager, do you know how long something like this would take?
It's going to take at least 90 days. So that's what we can extend it, right, is 90
Whoa.
days. So I'd do that full amount.
Well, let's do it for the second meeting in June, and if we need more time, then we'll postpone it at that point.
Okay. Can I get I'll second that. Can I? Okay. All those in favor of the postponement say aye.
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 Opposed? We'll do a roll call, please.
Kill the bill.
Okay, Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney,
No.
Alderman Payon,
Yes.
Alderman Pendle Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson,
No.
Alderman Shandemeyer,
Yes.
Alderman Gay,
No.
Alderman Savage,
No.
Alderman Arnett.
No.
Okay, motion fails.
I sure did.
We now have to vote on it if we're going to adopt, right? A motion,
Now you need another motion to
move.
adopt my mistake about the amendments, because they were so confusing, they conflicted. I'm going to deconflict it. The motions to adopt, you need a motion to adopt amendments 1, 3, and 4 without 5, 6, and 7. That would get you permitting and residence requirements that you need, which is at the city level. If you adopt 1, 3, and 4, that's one motion. That passes, then you have to adopt 0521 as amended with 1, 3, and 4. Remember, 1, 3, and 4 give you the launching permit regime and the residence requirement to the city only. 5, 6, and 7, 5 and 6 basically took away the residency requirement and the launching permit regime. 7 added back in the residency requirement. So, motion number 1, if you want to go in this direction, is to pass amendments 1, 3, and 4, which adds a residency requirement, permitting regime, and the residency requirement at the city level.
Mr. City Attorney, can I just get a clarification on that? Because I thought you said when we made the original motion to reconsider, it was
Yes.
on a motion as amended.
Right, I made a mistake because I had to look back at the amendments and I saw that the amendments conflicted. So we didn't really pass all of the amendments. And it's not clear on my sheet.
The way we adopted it last time is there were conflicted amendments. It was amendment, but the last amendment 7 overruled an earlier amendment because the earlier amendment had removed all restrictions.
Right.
And this amendment 7 overruled that. So I guess the question is, can we just, since it was moved as amended, can we just go off of that and So basically, if we want to make further amendments now, somebody would have to reintroduce.
Well, I'm trying to get it as clear for the record as possible. It looks like we have two options then. With respect to Amendment 7, with respect to the way the bill was passed, change it to modify and remove the word "or county" from the legislation as enacted.
I don't think that's been moved, though. Yeah.
I'd like to move it as amended at the last meeting, which is with, can I see that?
Second.
Well, if you move it as amended as the last meeting, you keep "or county" in the
Yeah.
legislation.
That's correct.
But that's already the way it is. So if
Yeah, it's the bill we passed.
But
Right.
it has, but we've made the motion to reconsider already, so it has to be.
So staff is telling me in the last meeting, you adopted 1, 3, 4, and 7.
No.
Yeah, we got the record right here. You adopted 1, 3, 4, and 7 with the ordinance. When you did that, you added "or county" to the parts of the bill that had only city.
We didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but we adopted 1, 3, 5, and 7.
No, didn't adopt 5. The reason we did not adopt 5, because that amendment removed the residence requirement.
We did, and then we did 7.
Well, but you can't have the county obtaining a permit in 7 and keep 5. You understand? Because 5 is a permit process.
I know, but I'm only telling you what happened. They did adopt those amendments.
Yeah, but 7 overruled that. Put the launching permit back in.
5 was not introduced. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this wrong.
2 was not introduced.
2 was, yes, you're right.
2 was not introduced.
2 was not introduced. And
5
and 6 was
removed
not
the residence
introduced.
requirement. 7 put it back plus added county.
Right.
Right.
Right. So that's right.
That's right.
So should we go and re-vote on them individually? What are you saying, Mr. City Attorney?
My suggestion would be to vote on whether or not 1, 3, 4, and 7 are going to be passed first or adopted with any changes.
Okay, well, can we just do that all at once? So can I make a motion to adopt 0521 as amendment with amendments 1, 3, 5, and 7? Is that what you said?
1, 3, 4, and 7.
1, 3, 4, and 7.
Do you want any changes to that? Are we changing? Are we? Because if you're not changing from city and county, it's the same as it was.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, excuse me.
Stay the way it was. And I thought you moved.
If that's the motion would be stated thus: I move that 0521 as amended be adopted as previously passed.
Correct.
So moved.
So moved. Just make sure 7's in there.
So that, Mr. Mayor, I think you have a motion to adopt 0521 as amended as previously passed.
Correct.
And it's been seconded.
Yes.
Okay.
Question.
Why don't we do 1, 3, 4 first and then 7? No.
We don't want to.
But I don't think you have the votes. We've been over it.
So that's the motion is on the floor.
Motion's on the floor. It's up for discussion. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Yes, so we're voting on what was passed the last time, which would be encapsulated as Amendment 1, 3, 4, and 7.
Yes.
Which would mean that would include county residents also who can obtain
Basically, you're
permits.
pulling back what was passed previously and voting on it again in the same fashion without any changes.
Thank you.
Without any additional changes.
Thank you. Alderman Pound.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move to...
that would be out of order because you have a motion and a second on the floor.
Well, I would like to have amendment number 8 at this point, to put a 1-year sunset.
We have to vote on.
The only thing that you can amend right now is the motion if accepted by the mover.
But I can move after we vote on 1 through 7, I can then do amendment 8 is that?
No. The motion on the floor is to pass the amendments with 0521 as amended, the way it was originally passed. That's the motion that's been seconded. So that's what's before you right now, to vote for that.
I understand that, but if I want to file an additional amendment, I can do that after we're finished voting with.
No, because it can't be amended by that at that time. It's
Well, I'd
gotta
like
be
to
amended
amend it
before.
now.
There's a motion.
We
Well,
haven't
you're
voted
asking
on
the
it.
mover. You're asking the mover to amend his motion.
Want to do a 1-year sunset?
I mean that's a brand new council. I don't know if it's wise to do that or
To have
not.
metrics, what deems success or not.
I could do that as separate legislation. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You could.
You want to define
You
success.
could do separate legislation. Yes.
Well, Alderman, I think a number of us are open to. We said we want to revisit this anyway, I think obviously you said you're not running again. It'll be whoever replaces you, but that'll give them a chance to chime in too in terms of what they want to see happen over there. But at least we'll have more data at that point. We can make a better decision, but. I don't see what sunsetting is going to gain us at this point, because a lot of the things in here are important in terms of, again, it makes it easier for the harbor master to enforce the permitting requirements, also the other prohibitions. So I think it'd be a mistake to sunset the entire thing. And that's where I think I just don't see the urgency behind.
Well, my thinking is that we see how it goes for an entire summer into the fall and into the early spring. We should know something about how it goes by this time next year. Hopefully the launch site will be, expected to be working on by then. Mr. Director, do you? Well, I don't want another issue here, but beyond what we're doing, but do you know when to expect work will start?
I think within the next fiscal year, we should be working on it, yes.
All right, look, I throw that out there.
Order of the
Thank
day.
you, sir.
Order of the day.
I throw that out there, and I just thought it was if you want to make it 18 months or something like that, that's.
We've had the vote called.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we do a roll call?
It was
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yeah, yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
I'm going to support Fred on the way out. Thank you, Fred. No.
For clarification, we're doing the roll call to call the question?
To call the question.
Oh,
Right.
to call the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, so we can get back to the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, yes.
Second.
So
Yes.
we don't need a roll call for that.
Wait a
We
minute.
can just call all in favor.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
What do we?
Aye.
Call the question.
Okay.
Calling the question.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And now let's take a vote on O-5-21 as amended. And just for clarification, this means that county and city residents have access to the Tucker Street boat ramp, which is very tight. So roll call, please.
Okay, on the amendment on second reader. Mayor Buckley?
Again, I'm going to support Alderman Pound. No.
You said no?
No, yeah.
Okay. Alderman Tierney?
I, in the spirit of compromise.
Okay.
All right, this is
Alderman
second reader for city and county together, correct?
It's the motion as amended on second reader, yes.
All right.
It's the bill,
No.
it's the bill again.
Would you call Alderman Tierney?
No, yeah. Alderman
Said yes.
Fidel Charles?
No.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Shandemeyer?
Nay.
Is that nay, Mr. Chairman?
He said no. Alderman Gay?
No. I think it should be open to everybody.
Okay. Alderman Savage?
I don't think
no.
I think you're a yes.
I said no.
Okay.
I realize what it is to county and city, but I would like to see it everybody. So I'm saying no. Oh, I thought we were on the final vote. Yes, sorry.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, it's happened to all of us.
Alderman
Dawn, it's
Savage.
happened to all of us.
Aye.
And Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
What was the Tierney vote?
Tierney said
Yes.
yes.
In the spirit of compromise meekly stated.
I got 1, 2, 3.
0521 remains the way it was.
Right. Okay.
Motion carried.
Yes, you still need to adopt it on third reader, and then we're done.
All right,
Okay.
is there a motion
Everybody
to
on third
adopt
reader.
O-5-21 on third reader? Second.
Okay. And there's a roll call. Mayor Buckley.
No.
Okay. Alderman Tierney. Aye. Alderman Payne.
Aye.
No.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
No.
Alderman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Schneidermeyer. Alderman Gay.
No. I'm confused now that what vote we're taking. Are we taking a final vote on the bill or what? What are we?
That was for second reader. This is third reader.
The final vote on the bill.
I was under a completely different impression, but
In order to remain consistent, you want to be consistent with your last vote?
yeah.
Then your vote is yes.
Okay, yes.
All right, so Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Okay. And Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
That ordinance passes. Okay.
Ordinance passes again.
We're good.
Oh, my God.
Okay. We're done.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Twilight
Mr.
Zone.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I would now like to read the Finance Committee report.
I was going to start with the book of Genesis, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
That is the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anything else for good order?
Mr. Mayor,
No good order?
I move that we adjourn.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Congratulations.